Hi, this is Daniela, and welcome to Bestie Life, the podcast, where we help you stop burnout now. If you're tired of running on empty, juggling all the things, and wondering when your life is supposed to feel better, you're in the right place. This show is your go-to space for real talk and practical strategies to help you protect your energy, create balance, and actually enjoy the life you're working so hard for. You'll get a mix of solo episodes and honest conversations with guests. My goal is to help you feel less alone, more empowered, and way more in control of your time and energy and well-being. So let's get into it. Hey friends, and welcome back to Bestie Life with Daniela, the podcast. I'm so glad you're here today because we're going to be talking about something that hits home for so many of the people I work with, including myself. People who want to be kind and helpful and even easygoing, but they also, in their pursuit to be agreeable and accommodating, end up kind of losing themselves in the process. And the thing is, being easy to work with and easy to be around doesn't mean it has to come at a personal cost to yourself. And so this episode is for all the people who've ever said, sure, no problem, while quietly feeling frustrated, tired, or resentful inside. You know, the ones who pride themselves on being dependable are actually starting to notice that dependability is going to come at that personal cost. And so I want you to know, and we're going to talk about how you can absolutely be thoughtful and flexible and still have strong, clear boundaries. In fact, you're going to be better because of them. So grab your favorite bevy, grab something to write with, and let's dive in. So let's start with this old belief that being a good person, a good worker, a good friend means that you're agreeable, means that you don't make waves, you don't say no, you don't disappoint anybody. If you're that kind of person who just likes to keep harmony, maybe you're the peacemaker, people pleaser, fixer, or just someone who always genuinely wants to put other people's needs first, it can be really easy to start confusing that kindness with compliance. You start to think that saying yes is what makes you kind, that flexibility is being generous, that self-sacrifice is your loyalty. But here's the truth. When you constantly prioritize everyone else's comfort over your own, you're not being kind, you're being depleted. And a depleted person can't show up as their best self. You know, that old expression, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? But you also can't be your most generous, creative, or patient self if you're always operating on a low battery. And I definitely found out that patience part when I was going through my own burnout. I was going through divorce with young kids, and that irritability kept showing up even though I was putting everyone else first, taking care of everyone else's needs. That low battery was definitely showing up in that way for me. And so, you know, that quiet downside of being the easygoing one, you know, the one who always adapts, who says, you know, whatever works for you, or the one who takes on those extra tasks, stays late, or lets things, you know, slide from other people. At first, it might feel fine. You know, you might tell yourself it's not a big deal. But over time is when we start to see that those small compromises really can start to pile up. You might feel unseen or underappreciated. You notice that you're carrying more than your fair share, both emotionally and maybe physically, practically. And eventually you hit this point where you realize you've trained everyone around you to expect your flexibility. You've taught them that you're going to bend every single time. And that's when that burnout can start to sneak in, not because you don't care about people, but because you've been caring for them at the expense of yourself. And so we need to start redefining what being agreeable really means. You know, what if instead of that old expression, you know, going along to get along, it meant something more like, I value connection, but I also value myself. And that's kind of where that key shift comes in, those boundaries that I love to talk about, you know, because boundaries aren't barriers. They're not a wall. It's not a negative, and it's not always a no. It's clarity. Being agreeable doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It means showing up with openness, honesty, and respect, not just for the other person, but also for yourself. It means knowing when to adapt and when to hold firm. And it's being grounded enough to say, that doesn't work for me right now, and trusting that the people around you can handle that. You know, you can be flexible without compromising what you need. You can be easygoing without being exhausted, and you can be kind without being constantly available. And so let's talk about the practicality of what having healthy boundaries is actually going to look like in a way that's going to feel good for you so that you still feel like you are meeting other people's needs, that you're being kind, that you're being agreeable, but in a way that is not depleting you. So let's talk about what this looks like when you're holding healthy boundaries, how to do this in a way that's going to look good, feel good. So the first step to do this is to maybe buy yourself some time before responding. When someone asks you to do something, asks you for something, you can pause and say, you know what, let me check my schedule and get back to you. And it's not a huge shift, but that tiny pause can give you the space to consider not just if you actually have the time to do it, but also, do you want to do it? Do you have the emotional bandwidth to handle taking on this extra responsibility? By replacing your automatic yes with a more intentional yes, it feels like more of a choice than a reflex. And saying yes means saying not only yes to the activity, but sometimes it also means saying yes to yourself, to your peace, to your energy, your rest, and being aware of what's more intentional versus that automatic. Using and language, by acknowledging what someone needs and your own needs, it's going to help kind of level that playing field so that an example might be saying to someone, I understand this is urgent and I don't have the bandwidth to take it on today. Kind of stating both sides of what's going on. It's not necessarily rude. It's kind of honest and respectful and gives the other person the opportunity to be a part of the problem solving, to be a part of the options so that you don't feel that responsibility to be the person to fix it all and handle all of it on your own. You're bringing other people into that collaboration and connection of working through that. You also have to maybe make peace a little bit with people being a little bit uncomfortable. And this can be so hard to do. People who are used to you saying yes at everything, not having any boundaries, might not like you having boundaries at first, especially if they benefited from that older version of you. But please know that short-term discomfort, they'll work through it. You'll work through it together with them. And in the end will lead to long-term respect. Because remember, saying no doesn't make you difficult. It makes you trustworthy. People know that when you actually say yes, you're being honest with them. You mean it. You can handle it. You're there for it all. And showing up in that way is going to feel better to both you and them in the long run. And here's the ironic thing that some people don't even realize. When you have strong boundaries, you actually become more easygoing, not less, because you're not operating out of guilt or resentment or anything like that. You're not constantly calculating what you should do or silently wishing people would read your mind and know that you're overwhelmed with too much to do. Boundaries create that emotional safety for you and everybody else. When you know where your lines are, you stop feeling stretched thin. When you trust yourself to say no, your yes carries so much more weight. And when you're not overextended, you're actually able to be more present, relaxed, and just genuinely there for them. So boundaries don't take away from your warmth or your kindness. They help protect it. So I want you to do a little quick self-check-in and think about these 3 questions for a minute. Where in your life do you feel like you're constantly the flexible one? Because it might not always be in every single area. There might be certain relationships, whether it's with families, friends, coworkers, where you have a tougher time keeping those boundaries in place. Think of even maybe what's one situation where you said yes, but you wish you hadn't. And look at, how did that show up for you? Even though you said yes and you maybe did the thing, how did it feel? And then lastly, think about how would it feel to set a small boundary there in that area in that relationship with that family member, with that coworker, in those situations. Maybe it's the holidays every year or something like that. And how would it feel to set even a small boundary there? You don't have to overhaul your whole life overnight, overhaul everybody's whole life. This is about starting with small, simple shifts. Maybe it's taking a beat and responding slower, checking your calendar first, letting them know you're going to take that pause before you say yes. Maybe it's blocking off one evening a week for yourself. Maybe it's asking for help before you hit your breaking point. Just small little boundaries like that start to build your confidence. And so ultimately, what I want you to remember is that being agreeable and accommodated, they're beautiful traits. I mean, these are the people you care about. These are the relationships that are part of your life. You want harmony. You want to make people feel better. And so it's not necessarily something to fix. It's something to honor, because the best version of that kindness includes boundaries. Boundaries, as I've said over and over again, they don't harden you. They're not negative. They keep your kindness sustainable. So you don't have to just keep being the nice one. You don't have to keep being the overextended one. When you balance compassion with clarity, your relationships are going to get healthier. Your energy is going to last longer, and you get to show up as your full self, not the watered down version that's trying to please everyone. Like I said, when I was going through my burnout, putting everybody else first, I was irritable. I was snapping. I was not being that kind person that I knew I was, even though I was saying yes. It was such a contradiction. But when I started to prioritize myself, small, simple shifts, using the free childcare at the grocery store, my daily gratitude practice, getting a gym with free childcare, and taking just some space for me, not only did I show up better for the people I love and care about at work and at home and everywhere else, but they also benefited and started showing up better as well. It set an example for them. It modeled for them not only what I needed, but trained them, in that way, but also modeled how to take care of themselves, how to do these things for themselves by being flexible and firm. The people that I love, now that my kids are older in their 20s and we've talked about it, it's really helped them learn and master those skills. So I hope that this episode, was able to help you learn a little bit more about boundaries, see it from a different perspective in a way that you can start practicing some small, simple shifts in your own boundaries. Because I want you to remember, kindness, while it's powerful, it's even stronger when you include yourself in the people that you're being kind to. So share this with someone who you think might need to hear it. And thank you so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you got something out of this episode that really made you feel seen, supported, or just a little bit more grounded. If you have any questions or thoughts, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're up for it, please leave me a 5-star review. That will help more people find the show and join this community. I'll leave you with 2 of my favorite quotes. Alone we may be strong, but together we're stronger. And when we support each other, incredible things happen. So let's keep showing up for ourselves and each other, and maybe even have some fun while we're at it. I'll talk to you soon.